Yeah, so we're gonna begin. So welcome to our artist talk. I'm Kristín Helga Ríkharðsdóttir.
And I'm Bára.
First, I'm gonna have an introduction about my work, and then Bára's gonna give an introduction about her practice.
And then we'll have some talks about the exhibition and things during the process there. And we will end with like a tiny slice of the Icelandic art scene. Yeah. So should we start?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, so we're gonna full screen this when we
F11.
F11. Okay, F11
It's
is
in
not.
Czech, so maybe someone can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
Some Czech-speaking
Yeah.
person.
There is like the third one.
the third one, okay?
Yeah, and there is like this.
This
No.
Control L.
A režim na celou obrazovkou.
Control
it's control.
Okay, yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So, yeah, as I've said before, my name is Kristín and I live and work in Reykjavik, Iceland. I'm going to be talking briefly about 5 works of mine that are in some way connected to advertisements, beauty, marketing, and products. I'm gonna start by showing you guys my graduation piece. So I graduated in 2016 with a BA from the Iceland University of the Arts. And this work is called Asada Skincare Go Natural. And the piece included a cucumber stall, shiny cucumbers, and this green plastic film, a mirror, a humidifier, which had the smell of peace and harmony calming blend, or the smell was called that. And then there was a video work with ambient sound with nature's sounds and pan flutes and etc. The idea of the work came from AliExpress, the web store. I found this gigantic cucumber pencil sharpener that you could use to transform cucumbers into a freestanding, natural, extremely hydrating face mask. So I ordered it and created this video work of a woman lounging in a clean space with this kind of scary face mask under soothing music. And the cucumber stall, which you can kind of see here, was supposed to be kind of similar to the ones you see in grocery stores, but the cucumbers were more shiny than cucumbers because I used lacquer to increase their beauty. And the green that I chose for the plastic film was supposed to be like more of a city green color rather than a green that you can find in nature. It's the similar color that you can find in gas stations and supermarkets, and it's almost impossible to find it. Or it is probably possible, but it's not a very natural green color. Yeah, so this is the first work that I kind of wanted to briefly introduce. And then the next work that we'll be talking about is called Rosemary. I did this work for the exhibition Fountain of Truth, which was exhibited in a space in Berlin called Here in 2017. Me and my friend Kristín Karolina, we created this concept of the show using the painting Fountain of Youth by Cranach as a starting point. This painting shows these elderly, sick women like being helped into this fountain, and then they swim through the fountain, and when they're at the middle they turn into like these teenage young women and are greeted by this fabulous fellow that puts them in gorgeous clothing and takes them to dinner, and then there's a party up there. So it's quite a fun painting, and kind of, yeah, it was a starting point for our exhibition. And I'm going to read the text of the exhibition, Fountain of Truth, which goes like this. Fountain of Truth plays with old myths, contemporary needs, and explores the man-made wanting of a longer lifespan and fresher look. The bright white, lavender pink, and rosemary green installation includes various objects that deal with these matters, including an immortal squirrel. And this was kind of how we installed this. And yeah, this is a work by Kristín Helga here, and then my work over there. And my photograph shows 3 photographs, so it's a series. First one is of a woman posing in front of her steaming rosemary water bowl. The second one is her hands holding rosemary up to the steaming water. And finally, the third photo is of a woman steaming her face with a towel. This work was inspired by my then flatmate, who steamed her face every night and sometimes mornings. So I would come to the kitchen and she would be at the kitchen table with a towel over her head, steaming her face. Yeah, a lot. And this ceremony was to maintain her health both on the inside and outside, she told me. And my flatmate is not a religious person, but she believes in a lot of things, like being healthy. So this was, yeah, where this work started here. I shot the photographs in advertisement style / stock photo, and I showed them in a light box that was meant to make it look like an advertisement, but somehow feel kind of alterish or holy. So yeah, so here you can see how it was installed. And then at the next work, which is called Boat of the Day. And this photograph series is inspired by commercials, and they were always meant to be big. But yeah. In this work I use popular sandwiches from a large company called Subway. I use their sandwiches as a material for a new sandwich I curate, rename, and photograph in a mix of beauty and food advertisement kind of aesthetic. And in the photo shoot I had a set designer who had experience with styling food help me create the kind of look that I wanted for each sandwich. And the names that I chose, as you can see here, it's concrete harmony delight, glossy salami, symbolic surprise, healing highway deluxe, and horizontal sunrise and cosmic carnival combo. Yeah, so the names are a mix of popular selling names like combo and delight, and spiritual words like harmony and healing. And the names were created to sell the sandwich as not only as a tasty and delicious, but also as a well-being and zen situation. And I've used these photographs of sandwiches in many different projects, including the Foodless Food Market and Radio Sandwich Episode 1 release party. And then I also showed them in a space in Stockholm called Pony Sugar, where I had the sandwiches, where I changed it every day, and it was like in this window. Yeah, and I changed them to 5 times. Yes. And Then there's this guy called Lady Fingers. And this is a photograph I did for an exhibition in the project space at 7 in Amsterdam that had the theme of after sun. I used the style of photographs of manicures that are everywhere, both on the streets and online, but replaced hands with another object that is also very familiar, the hot dog. Yes. So we're at the last work now, and I was gonna go online to show you it more here it is. In a more effective way. The installation included 2 video works, 4 sculptures, 4 boxes, and 23 sculptures that were located not in the installation, but at another place in this Aurora Center in Reykjavik. And I feel like this work needs a little 2 pre-stories. The first one is that in Reykjavik, where me and Bára live, a lot of spaces that locals in Reykjavik love have been turned into gift shops or hotels, which has developed a minor frustration for people living there. And the other pre-story is that, as well as being an artist, I'm also a park ranger in the nature reserve Fjallabak in Iceland. And in Fjallabak, there's a mountain called Obsidian Mountain, and as the name implies, there's quite a lot of obsidian there. The rock obsidian is black, shiny and beautiful, and is protected by Icelandic nature laws. And it is under no circumstances allowed to remove it from its original place. But since it's very beautiful, a lot of people feel very tempted to take one, which is very unfortunate for nature, since it's always getting less and less of this rare rock. So, pre-stories aside, my idea was to make a new kind of obsidian that was even more rare than the actual rock. So I created obsidian with 2 B's. Which is, this one here. I took rocks from construction work sites where they were building hotels, and I polished them with an angle grinder and painted them and lacquered. I designed packaging, which you can see here. I designed and sold them in a gift store in Iceland that has a Northern Light theme, which I thought was a perfect theme of a gift store because it's about nature phenomena that is marketed and sold. And and from that I created a commercial which we can watch. and then in the installation of the work in the Living Art Museum, I showed the commercial and these rocks, which I called Obsidian Deluxe, because it was like a bigger version of the rocks that were in the Aurora Reykjavik. And as well as an ASMR video of the... Okay, it's not actually here. Yeah, here it is, like an ASMR video of the rock, which was kind of thought as a post-product kind of thing, you know, when you already launched the product and you send it to a influencer or YouTuber that does a review of it, and it's kind of a very sneaky advertisement. So I contacted this the most famous ASMR personality in Iceland, called the Nordic Whisper, and she was very up for doing ASMR to my sculpture, and yeah, we showed that. Okay. Normally I'm good with computers, but yeah, and then yeah, I showed it at the museum. But I was very happy when she wanted to put my video work on her YouTube channel of her doing the ASMR, which she did, and maybe I'll play it for you. A little bit of it, at least.
So, I'm going to show you this beautiful sculpture called the obsidian. And the obsidian is made from basalt rock, which was once a solid part of Reykjavik, but was blown up to make room for new buildings in the city. So here you have the box containing the sculpture, and on the front you have a picture of it. And then here on the side we have some more information about the sculpture, as well as on the back, so you can get to know it better. So I'm going to open up the box so we can take a closer look. So here is the sculpture. You can see that the basalt has been sanded and lacquered, so now it looks like obsidian, but it's not. And that's why it's called obsidian with two P's. It's really shiny. And it has many different textures. Like here, it is a bit rough. But here it's really smooth.
Okay, and then this goes on for not enough time, apparently, according to the comments. But yeah, I was very happy that she wanted to that, you know, my video work would get a new life, not as a video work, but as an ASMR video, like actual one. So I really enjoyed like reading the comments from people and like what they're saying about this ASMR video and the sculpture, and also good to get some like dislikes, you know, on the video. But yeah, I think this was a a very ended up being a kind of big part of the work in like post. After it was shown, it got this new life. But that was it. So I'm gonna give Bára the word.
Should we give away the seats?
Mm-hmm.
You want a chair maybe? I think we need this anymore. So I am also a visual artist living and working in Reykjavik, and I will show you I think 4 works from my practice before we go into talking about the exhibition. And yes, I will just start with this. So the first work I'd like to show you is called It's Your Chocolate, but it's still not your chocolate. This work was shown at the Iceland University of the Arts graduation exhibition in 2017 at the Reykjavik Art Museum. The work sprouted from a series of events that occurred a few months earlier. At the time, I was looking into object-oriented ontology, and relationships between objects were often on my mind. I had been dating my husband for a few months, and he would always leave Mars bars in my apartment as a source of sugar because of his diabetes. And during this period of where I was pairing a lot of objects together for sculpture tests, I grabbed one of his Mars bars and I crushed it onto this rose quartz stone that I had on display in my kitchen windowsill. And I didn't really know what to do with this combination, but I really liked it. So I kept it like that and brought it to my studio. And soon after that, there was an announcement on the news from NASA that they had discovered that a solar system called TRAPPIST-1 had possible conditions for life, which I thought was really interesting because before this I had always known the planet Mars to be the only planet with life-friendly conditions. Mars was the only place we might escape to when we would finally ruin the Earth. And in sci-fi space movies, Mars was the place to be. So I began comparing the chocolate bar Mars and the planet Mars. I used the physical crushed Mars bar I already had and began measuring it against this planet, which I don't know physically, but I do know it very familiarly through the news and movies on 2-dimensional screens. I compared the mass-manufactured aspect of the Mars bar to the mass appeal of cinema glamorized image of the planet. I even came across this advertisement that I thought was pretty funny from 2000, where Mars Chocolate was using the following slogan, which was, "Who knows, in 1,000 years, we could all be sitting on Mars eating Earth bars." This curious process ended up as 3 works that formed one whole installation, which I will now find. Yes, and it was which guy? Kristín, how did you do it?
Control L.
Ah, yeah, well, that's right. Thanks. Alright, so this is the first piece of the 3 pieces. The ingredients of this first work are the aforementioned Mars bar crushed on top of a rose quartz, placed on a chunky plinth made out of baked clay underneath a case of glass and silicone. I think of this work as addressing the comparison of the two Mars from the chocolate bar's point of view. The work is very physical and textural. It displays the guts of the chocolate bar, the caramel coming through and sliding down there, and the whole work is very static and still. So this is the second work. This one is addressing this comparison of the two Mars from the planet's point of view. Inside the field monitor, you see these 3D renderings that I was playing earlier of these two Mars in a sort of Skype conversation. The size of the planet on the screen indicates that the conversation is seen from the planet's perspective, like when you're Skyping with a friend and your face is on the small corner of the screen. The field monitor also felt strange and spacey enough to possibly belong on the planet Mars or in a movie about the planet Mars. I feel this work is happening more in 2D than 3D, as it belongs mostly in the video itself, so it's not as physical as the previous work. And here is the third piece, and this third piece represents the human point of view. As the human point of view, it contains more familiar language and consists of a bench guests could sit on, as well as audio they could listen to. As guests make themselves comfortable, they sit down on specially printed velvet containing images of an inner city botanical garden. An example of nature edited by humans already, the images were then further edited by me to accentuate the human interference of the image. So on the right side you can see the images or details of the images that were printed. So this is where I would take these photographs into a program called Cinema 4D and like accentuate them sort of back to 3D, basically just manipulating them a lot more. While sitting on the bench, guests would listen to my research and thoughts on the difference between the two Mars, as well as my conversation with a professional about the planet Mars. We discussed how people perceive the planet based on what they know about it. The possibility of moving to the planet Mars, which he thought was a very real possibility in the future, as well as how an Earth bar might taste if we needed a reminder of Earth's flavor if we moved away. So here you can see the installation of works like it was in the Reykjavik Art Museum, and you can see the body of the screen, which was felt to me quite spacey, and the whole idea was also that you should be able to sit on the bench and listen to the audio but still have a full visual of the other things. Yes. So the next piece is this is from my solo exhibition from last August, which took place in an artist-run space in Reykjavik called Harpingar. The title of the exhibition is There's Plenty of Time in 24/7, and it was largely inspired by this article that I read in the Guardian Long Read, which was titled Why Time Management is Ruining Our Lives by Oliver Bergman. This article discussing how we can self-sabotage by overscheduling our lives and having unrealistic expectations of ourselves. I'd like to read a little bit from this article just to set the tone. Okay. Oh yeah, thanks. And here's some more overview. The time pressure problem was always supposed to get better as society advanced, not worse. In 1930, John Maynard Keynes famously predicted that within a century, economic growth would mean that we would be working no more than 15 hours per week, whereupon humanity would face its greatest challenge, that of figuring out how to use all those empty hours. Economists still argue about exactly why things turned out so differently, but the simplest answer is capitalism. Keynes seemed to have assumed that we would naturally throttle down on work, since our essential needs,
once our essential needs plus a few extra desires were satisfied. Instead, we just keep finding new things to need. Depending on your rung of the economic ladder, it's either impossible, or at least usually feels impossible, to cut down on work in exchange for more time. And I think this article really resonated with me, so it influenced a lot of the works. There. So when I was reading this article, I also realized that this element of stressing for time might also be shared with nature, seeing as nature also feels like it's running out of time in certain aspects. So the words that sprouted from this research and these thoughts were actually this juxtaposition of human and nature and time stress. And I will just go into two of the works from the exhibition, but if you have any questions later, you can just ask me about it. So this work is called Melted Bees, and it's made from neon yellow bioplastic and licorice. I began to see bees as a symbol of time running out in nature. While there are likely plenty of other animals that are in danger of extinction due to global warming, it always seems to be videos of bees and their situation that floats into my newsfeed. I placed them in the windowsill to play with this visual of that flies in the home, which I feel is very like a familiar position and also quite vulnerable. And here's a little detail. I also recently learned that bees used to be a symbol of strength and fertility. So maybe seeing an animal with connotations of such strength being in danger due to change in the environment is something that has been feeling more striking to people than otherwise. And I have a gift of this too. Alright, so the other work I want to talk about from this exhibition is titled Oyster Mushrooms Are Better Pets Than Dogs Because They Don't Need As Much Attention, But They Still Need You. And this work was a collaboration with Magnus Magnusson, who is very experienced with mushroom growing. The work is made from oyster mushroom grown in plastic bags containing coffee grounds, saw and calcium. And so it was basically placed in the space, and during the time of the exhibition it sprouted. So it had to get a lot of care and be spritzed with water quite a bit, but basically when the mushroom gets the right conditions, he sprouts from this bag, which has tiny little holes, and then the mushrooms come out. So the work is playing with the idea of a pet for an owner with a busy schedule. Mushrooms are an interesting form of life, actually closer to humans than plants, so I figured for a busy person who wants to feel needed and craves something to care for, why not try mushrooms? They only need the right amount of moisture and nutrition, and they have a shorter lifespan than cats and dogs, so that might fit today's shorter attention span, which we are suffering from. And the last piece I will discuss is from my solo exhibition in 2016 in the Icelandic Academy of Arts, and it's called Attending. The whole exhibition was actually inspired by FOMO, which, for those who don't know, it means fear of missing out. This term is usually placed in context with social media. It's a name for the anxiety we experience in relation to missing out on something, when friends are sharing these images of themselves doing things that the viewer did not participate in and therefore feels bad. This work was a performance derived from an article I read, which was not really surprising, but still, how anxiety and depression was increasing with girls aged 13 to 15, and how that was related to social media use and how they were always on social media. In the performance, girls this age, 13 to 15, they would hang around in the exhibition space, playing in their phones. Then, every 5 minutes, they would receive texts about how many people were attending other openings happening concurrently in the school. They would then read those texts into a microphone and compare with how many people were in my opening at the same time. So, for example, they might read something like, it's 6:35, there's 8 people in Arna's exhibition, 6 people in Yeva's exhibition, and 7 people here. After that, they would return to their phones. But yeah, and here's also what the exhibition space looked on the outside, so it's also quite staged. So these were my works, and maybe we should check out the Radio Sandwich episode 1 quickly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's open.
Oh yeah, it is.
Let's go over here.
Oh yeah. Okay. So
Maybe you.
thanks.
Okay.
So the idea for Radio Sandwich actually came up last Christmas, or Christmas 2017. And I don't know, should I tell about the Foodless Food Market too, or just Radio Sandwich?
It was connected to. Yeah, I think we can talk about it or maybe you can say one sentence about it.
Okay, I will try to be quick. So basically the Foodless Food Market, which is this stall over there in the right picture, is this market booth, which we thought was quite timely because this was in a time when everyone was having these Christmas markets in Reykjavik, where there's something that looks like food for sale, but it's actually food art which is inedible. So it was called the Foodless Food Market. So people would come there and buy inedible food art.
Yeah.
And from there came this idea of Radio Sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you wanna say something about it?
Yeah, as this kind of like platform, you know, because we invited other artists that we knew had been making some art that was, you know, representing food, like this burritos that you know were sued and like all sorts of food things. And yeah, and we invited them to send in audio work that we then made this first episode of Radio Sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the idea was that it would be visual artists creating music with the theme.
And the theme for the first episode was food.
Sandwiches.
Sandwiches, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it was also just like a playful way to collaborate with other artists, so that was quite fun.
Mm-hmm.
And that was also what we did here with this artist who called Duox. And then the theme was Goodie 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 Bags.
Yeah.
And yes, and we will also put that online, and so people can still listen to it. And it's like a radio mix
Mm-hmm.
with a radio narrator and stuff like that.
Should we play like 10 seconds or is it?
No, totally.
It's on down there.
Is it though?
Okay.
Or
Maybe the internet is a little bit bad. Okay, we can press it.
Let's try this.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Radio Sandwich. I'm Kristín Helga Ríkharðsdóttir, and with me is Bára Bjarnadóttir. This is our first episode, and today's episode is all about sandwiches and that sweet, sweet, sweet music. We're gonna play some amazing tunes by amazing artists ranging from Eva, Chloe, Gitarrista, Tizi, and of course our own music, because we are narcissistic like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright.
So this was the feel of the first episode, but as some of you may know, but have listened to the second one, it's a different theme and different vibe.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, so the vibe this time was Goodie 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 Bags, and we were very inspired just by like merchandise culture, basically. Like the first big inspiration was these obviously goodie bags and these giveaways and this like social media
specific materialism, which often consists of cosmetics and healthy food and giveaways.
And it's kind of like a advertisement in the back.
Yeah, exactly. And so that whole material realm is what created the works in this exhibition, which are mostly about like texture, the texture of it.
The exhibition.
Yes,
Not the radio.
Not the radio, yeah. And so we figured it would just be nice to, since we had this great arena account for all our like goodies, we might just show you some of the sketches and stuff of the process. So here we have one of the first sketches of the fish. This was when we were thinking a lot about like bronzers and this type of chemical that's called kamtaxanthin.
Like tanning pills.
It's kind of like tanning pills, but it's also been used for
Fish.
It's been used for like breeding fish and birds. So it's the same material that was used in tanning pills in the 80s. Is made to make like salmon more red and like egg yolks more orange red, I guess. And we thought that was quite funny because like we were thinking about it for cosmetic purposes, and then we're kind of spreading it into other species too. So these are the first sketches for that, and this one here too. And from there it ended up being like these three guys around here, the cosmetic fish.
Yeah. This one it's glowing. It has a highlighter effect, and this one is contoured with bronzers and highlighters, and this one just has bronzers.
Yes. And yeah, here are some of the material tryouts that we were figuring out. So we're blending together vitamin E oil and bronzers and using them for like drawing materials and shading materials. And here is the
Fish thing.
the fish food with the kamtaxanthin in it. And we're also looking into that material. And some bronze pails. Do you wanna? No, okay. Okay. So, and then something else we were inspired by, because we were thinking about this preservation, because then we started thinking about this preserving colors in fish, and there's sort of a connection between maybe like these cosmetics that are making us seem young for longer and things like that. They're a bit connected to the way we are preserving food, so it stays longer beautiful, and there's this like a bit unsettling connection there between things never getting old. So we started thinking about this in food too, and one of the most common things that are making foods last longer is this fructose corn syrup, and we thought it still had this quite beautiful texture and like very juicy,
It's very beautiful. It's like it's very beautiful.
Yeah.
You know.
And feels very like
Ooh.
yeah, exactly, almost like a texture ASMR thing,
Yeah.
maybe. So that's
Can't not look at it, you know.
yeah, exactly. And that's what inspired the piece in the winter, of course. And here we have, oh, I hope this works. This is so beautiful. So this is how lattice is made for these food installations, or like these restaurant display meals, so people can decide what they want to eat. And we thought this was still quite connected to this cosmetic food preserving theme. And
So we started to do this, and
yeah, and that's where the installation came from. But I mean, there is a slight difference in method. Ours, we felt also the one we made were a bit more like kale, which we think is this a bit more like social media friendly, happy women laughing with salad type of food.
yeah.
So we went in the direction of more like a single salad leaf. But this is more how they make the actual lettuce heads. But I think we should just have to watch this video. It's so nice, right?
Yeah, we can watch it.
We can watch a little bit.
It's a long salad.
Yeah, it's a really long salad. Then he's gonna do a thing.
He knows.
He knows.
Then it happens.
It's beautiful.
Beautiful, right?
It's beautiful. I think it is. Oh yeah, I think you guys get the gist of the salad so far. And some more salad in case you didn't get, we were talking about salad so far. And then we have some goodie bag inspirations for the goodie bags themselves, regarding like size and playfulness and the kitschiness for sure. But should we just move into the Icelandic art scene talks? Do you guys have some questions about the exhibition or something? You can also ask later if you want. Alright.
But yeah, we were asked to have a short introduction about the Icelandic art scene, and we kind of decided to just talk briefly about artist-run spaces.
Yeah, because even though it's a small country, it's still a big task to cover like the Icelandic art scene. That's one thing, but we feel like artist-run spaces and artist initiatives are really like such a backbone of the scene, and we really have some great ones. And so just to give you a taste, we'll just give you a little look into 3 of those.
It's kind of common in Iceland to just to open up a space with your friends and start like that kind of.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can start with Milo.
Yeah, and I mean this is definitely the oldest space in Iceland. It might be the oldest space in Europe.
Yeah,
Right?
I think it's
Yeah,
I think the oldest artist-run museum in Europe.
Yeah, now it's like a museum, but it started as an artist-run space. And it's 41 years old since recently. And so it has this beautiful archive of works that were given by other artists, and that kind of makes it a very unique museum. But it's still like largely operated by artists and board members and members. And it recently moved into this a larger housing in the Marshall House. I think someone's getting a message. Okay. And yeah, what is good to say about it? And yeah, I mean it's I think this is like a very, very strong how do you say, like a very strong not stopnun, but it's a very strong space. I mean, it survived a lot of things. It's moved between a lot of housing and like they're very active and now they're in 2 places. So the archive is a whole house, like or the lower half of a house, and the top half just became like a student art space, and the other is like a new beautiful exhibition space.
But now the space is very like considerably, a museum standard. Like even though it started as an artist run space, and then we should maybe go to the next one.
Yeah.
We have 3.
Can you show some photos from this?
Yes. Maybe here in groups. Okay.
Maybe we just Google it.
Yeah.
Or the clock sheet.
Okay. This is.
It will come on quickly.
Okay. Maybe it's gonna come and correct it. Okay.
The Living Art Museum.
Yeah, Living Art Museum. But. Okay. Wait. Yeah, so this is kind of the space like it looks now, but normally it's more open. It has these extra walls, and this is not the space, but this is the Marshall House. It's in this very big house now by the harbor.
And that house is containing two spaces like this. It's also containing Klingobang, which is an artist run space, and the Studio Ólafur Eliasson. And the other is one from the Water Type exhibition by an hours course. There's it. And there's,
Here's the art.
I wonder, but it's really been through a lot of housing, so it's a bit, it feels still quite new that it's there.
I also have opened this. This was in the Living Art Museum, so it has some pictures here of where you can maybe like see a little bit of the space.
Yeah, it's very bright and like right by the harbor.
Yeah, it's only my corner of the space, but as you can maybe see here, it's actually really big and really like nice and white. But it didn't. This is very recent. The museum used to not have this very fancy space.
For sure.
Yeah.
So, should we talk about the next?
Yeah. Okay.
So the next space is this Harpingar. That's an artist-run space, which is quite younger. Maybe, do you know how old it is? A couple of years old.
Yeah, it's a few years old, and she. This used to be a fish store, and now it's run by this 2 artists and also the city. And the city gives a little bit of support, I think.
And they are quite active too. I mean, it's really like midtown, and it's in a way, if there is an exhibition, you can also just always see it at night, which I think is quite lovely. But it's they're very active. They have a lot of exhibitions. Now they're just also the images I showed from the mushroom and things like that. That was from that space. It's very bright and I don't know. I remember they have done like a few things related to print. But I think it's pretty much like a fine art space for sure. It's very clean. And Philip, you've seen it. You know what space it is. And then the last space has also been going for a few years, but it's still quite a different vibe. It's called Artisans.
And that's a different space from the, of course, the other 2, because it was opened by a newly graduated artist who opened this small space in her grandma's basement and has been running it for like 4 years. And
Yeah, I think maybe it's now, I'm not sure, I think maybe Hedron is also taking part in organizing the schedule now. But yeah, that's also been going on for quite a few years, and yeah, like a totally different surrounding, but still, I think like both, like all of these types of spaces are very important in the scene for sure. Yeah. Yeah, so yes, do you have any questions about this or something? No?
Okay.
Okay, that's it then. Thank you for coming.
thank you for coming. That was me.
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Yes.